Well, better late than never. Got to get used to these settings to get everything just right so that we can get together every once in a while for a visit to the edge with the cliff here on YouTube. And today, we're going to talk about dreams. We've all had dreams, right? And what do dreams mean? What are they? Are they a warning of things to come? Maybe sometimes are they? Maybe, perhaps. Are they maybe a formulation of your thoughts and beliefs and patterns that kind of work themselves together to make adjustments that we're not necessarily aware of because, well, how many of you remember every dream you have? No, you don't. It's usually gone by the time you wake up, even the ones that you really want to stay with. But what kind of dreams do you have? Do you ever have any recurring dreams? We've made a brief mention of lucid dreaming and how to get into control of the dream that you find yourself in because you don't always know you're dreaming when you're having a dream. You don't always know. But if all of a sudden you realize that you are in a dream, that, my friend, is when you get to take full control of everything that happens in that dream. What I'm saying is you could do anything. All you have to do is understand that you're in control once you realize that you're actually in a dream. Now remember that. You'll need to remember that. That's easier to remember than some of the dreams you have. Do you ever have recurring dreams, ones that seem to like leave off somewhere and then later on you have some more dreams along those lines and it progresses on and on to something else? You ever wonder about stuff like that? Well, here on the edge with the cliff, we're going to talk about that today. So you might as well message all your friends and tell them to go to YouTube/Clif with one F, Clif Desmond. That's YouTube.com/Clif Desmond with one F. And tell them we're talking about dreams. Or if you know somebody that perhaps you've hung out with some of your own friends in dreams that you, some of the same people you hang out with when you're not sleeping. And what happens during those dreams, and why do we dream dreams like that? It's going to all be open to your discussion and contemplation here on the edge with the cliff. Now, we often go, quite often, where many fear to contemplate or they don't want to go there. Out of fear, yeah, you can break away the fear that's been installed in you and programmed into you. It's called doctrination. Well, you need to be unindoctrinated because, well, you'll notice if you follow along carefully every once in a while that we don't express any fear from the guilt, fear, and control matrix like many are. Look all around you, they're everywhere. Scared people who are living the good Christian life. So they don't go to hell and burn forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Well, I'm going to make you just a little smarter. I'm going to tell you something. I want you to think about it. You don't have to believe it. You say, hey, Cliff, that is bull smack. Okay, but what I'm going to tell you is, you remember the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? You ever wonder what the knowledge of good and evil actually is? The knowledge of good and evil. It's the secret knowledge of good and evil. The two are the same. They are one. Good and evil are the same. They have the same origin, and they're used on both sides. and maybe one a bit more than the other, maybe an unfair advantage. But you'll clearly see, if you simply can escape from the guilt, fear, and control matrix, then you're allowed to think about things like that. The knowledge of good and evil. What knowledge of good and evil? The knowledge of good and evil that it is both the same thing. Ooh, my ears are itching. That happens every time gossip about me takes place. And I love the gossip that's going on about me, because when people gossip, the only reason they gossip is because they don't know what's really going on. So they can only judge by what other gossipers have told them. Now think about that. Okay, I hearsay that there's been hearsay. I can clear up a lot of gossip right now. I can tell you the truth. I'm not among the brethren and sisterin of the God of gossip. Okay? I'm not into any false God, especially one in particular that is a false God. He disguises himself as God. He wants you to believe he's God, but you'll have to you'll have to dig deep and do some heavy-duty forensic Bible study, but it's there in the original language. The problem is has a little to do with the translations, but we could dream about that. We could go on dream projects, you know. Have you ever conducted or been a part of a dream project? An experiment in the realm that seems to only be during the times when you're unconscious. And do we have to be unconscious to be in a dream state? Do we really? I don't think so. I think the dream state can easily be achieved when fully alert. I'm not going to say wide awake, because I'm talking a little bit about meditation. Meditation can bring you to a point, if you breathe, control your breathing, nice deep inhalation through your nostrils, bring it all in real slow, 4 or 5 seconds all the way in, hold for 4 or 5 seconds, and then release during a 4 or 5 second period of time. And you do this continuously for a while, and you go into a state that you can stay in. Even if somebody walks into the room and asks you a question, you can just answer it, and it doesn't take you out of that state. That's when your mind is quiet, when all the white noise dies down. What about when the children daydream? Do you remember getting caught daydreaming? You're just daydreaming away, and your eyes are as big as plates, and you're way out there somewhere, not here, but somewhere. And somebody says, "Hey, you okay?" It'll startle you if you're a child at your desk at school. And I'll have to ask my friend Jody, who occasionally checks out these videos after they've gone up. A lot of folks are afraid to watch this show live because there's a chat room in it. Let me see if I can say something in the chat room that will let you know. Excuse me. I need to let you know that this chat room is active. So I'll say, hello. That's me in the chat room saying hello to you. How about places? You ever dream about places you've lived before? Have you ever dreamt about anticipating a move far away? Have you ever had a dream that may have involved the fact that you were going to move several states away, hundreds of miles away, maybe 1,000 or more miles away from where you live, and you're anticipating the move, and you might have a dream or two about that, right? Okay, and then there's after the move, you'll dream about the place that you left for a long time. That's quite common. But how far back do your dreams go in your memory, as far as dreams that you can actually remember? Now, I'll bet there were a couple dreams that occurred, let's say 2 or 3 times over the course of your life so far, that you can remember. That's nice. How about dreams that you've gotten a hold of? How about dreams that you've accidentally realized it was a dream, and all of a sudden you found out you had magical powers. You could do anything you want. It's in a dream. Basically, I think dreams for us, when we're asleep and we are out, the lights are out, and it looks like nobody's home, I think what we're experiencing is pretty much the same thing as what happens with your computer or your cell phone when you reboot it or restart it. When you reboot, you don't just reboot the hard drive, you reboot the whole system, including the hard drive. And usually a reboot will put everything back to its normal settings like it was the last time you turned it on or rebooted. And when we sleep, our dreams are our recycled memories and thoughts and things that we watch on television. You ever watched something scary on television and had dreams about it? I hope it wasn't Freddy Krueger. Could you imagine that? They created a villain that caused children to be afraid to go to sleep because they didn't want to meet Freddy Krueger in their dreams. Not good. Ooh. But then there are wonderful dreams that you don't want to ever wake up from. And they're the most saddest ones of all. When the alarm clock goes off, always seems to be right about the time when all systems are go and everything is just absolutely perfect. And then what happens? It's like a vacuum cleaner. You're sucked right out of there in 2 seconds. Where am I? What was I dreaming? It was great. What was it? I can't remember. Wow. It's quite unfortunate, but it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. How about people that don't dream at all? Do you think there's anybody out there that doesn't ever dream? You've never dreamed? I'm sure you have. The worst time to dream is when you doze off in the daytime. And that dream kind of affects you, like when your dog falls asleep at your feet under your big chair and he gets into his deep, deep dream state, and all of a sudden his little paws start going like that. And he starts chasing something in his dream. There's nothing wrong with your dog. It's the guy you're watching on the screen. I know your dog probably heard me and what was that? What was that? Does your dog tip his head when you watch The Edge with the Cliff? Does he raise his eyebrow? Oh, that's your preacher. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry for him and what he has imposed on you, and what he continues to impose on you on a regular basis. He's not interested in what Jesus had to say. He never talks about what Jesus actually said, unless it was something that Paul said that Jesus said. Now, he'll teach you everything about Paul, because Paul holds the key to the guilt, fear, and control matrix. Oh, but for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. No. Jesus didn't say that. Paul said that. What did Jesus say? The kingdom of heaven is within you already from birth. When you take that first breath and the light hits you, you're here, complete. There's a lot of stuff that Paul said about Jesus, and it has always been a very viable argument of contention, because this isn't just some new thing that people are just thinking about and figuring out or making up or whatever you think it is. It's been here all along. Our founding forefathers, Thomas Jefferson, they were around taking a look at what King James had approved and dedicated unto himself, the same guy that wrote a book on demonology. And it's in the first page of your King James. Read the not Genesis 1:1. I'm talking about way before that. You'll open up the cover, then there's like a blank page with nothing on it, and another blank page with nothing on it. Oh, there it is, the Holy Bible, dedicated to the honor and the glory forever and ever, amen, to King James. Well, Thomas Jefferson took a look at the New Testament, and this is going to sound familiar. You've heard this. It's like a dung pile containing an occasional diamond, from which you'd have to really dig into some. You'd really have to get deep into the. You'd have to put your arm in all the way to the armpits and feel around until you stumble across a diamond. Now, there's an old wives' tale saying, and I say old wives' tale because it's about squirrels, and squirrels have tails. And this is an old wives' tale. I'm not quoting any scripture translation or anything like that. This is just one of those things. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut occasionally. So, folks are now digging around for diamonds. I'm one of them. They are very, 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 very few and far between, let me tell you. But you don't want to get your hands dirty, but that's okay. I'll get my hands dirty for you. And all the things that I say that appall you, that know for a fact that you think that I'm sending myself on a ticket straight to hell. I feel bad for you that you feel that way, because it's nothing but discrimination and hate, and you're so full of hate because you've eaten the dung that hides the diamonds, and you failed to seek the diamonds because the dung got tasting pretty good after a while, didn't it? And you don't want to dream about reaching into the dung up to your armpits to find a diamond, but if you had a dream like that, if you had a dream where you had to do something awful, you had to reach into something gooey and nasty in order to obtain something beautiful and shiny and valuable. You had dreams like that? How about some of the terrible things that people do to people? You've seen in movies where they used to take a stump that had a very large, deadly scorpion-type creature inside this hollowed-out stump, and to find out if the man was a spy or not, or if he was telling the truth or not, he would reach his arm into the stump, and if he was guilty, this deadly scorpion creature would give him the sting of his life that would drive him mad as it killed him. That often beg for mercy, please, please spare me the suffering. And they would request to be executed immediately. That's just some of the things that you see, like Freddy Krueger. What are some of the other dream villains out there? How about ones that have never been in a movie about dreams with them in it, like Dracula the Vampire? Did you have dreams about Dracula and werewolves and things like that? After watching movies, mind you. Because don't forget, what you see with your eyes goes into your hard drive. Yep, it's a hard drive, all right. And you need to reboot it every once in a while. But all that information goes in, and it jumbles around. It's like a big crock pot. Did I say crack pot? A crock pot, where it's all simmering in there. All that input, and that input can be pretty doggone wild, especially if you've seen the what's that series? We Can't Find version 6. You know which one it is. It's that it's the one where they cheated death, and then death stalks them and gets every one of them. That series. Oh, it's awful. But then, of course, there's good things, the nice movies, the wonderful things that you've seen, the beautiful scenery, taking a trip across the country in a train or a bus and seeing the mountains from a distance on the East Coast and the West Coast and out in the Midwest and all that. Everywhere where there are beautiful, beautiful scenes everywhere. Beautiful sunrises, beautiful sunsets, plenty of nice, wonderful things to dream about. So what do you get stuck with? How about if I gave you a dream scenario, and in that dream scenario, you happen to find something familiar about it? What do you mean? What if I tell you something that you may or may not have had a dream or similar experience in the dream? How many workaholics are there watching? I will pass on speculation. How many slackers are there out there? No answer. Didn't think so. I didn't think you were a slacker, because I know you want to think about some things and you want to discuss some things, and you can't bring yourself to it because of the way you've been so deeply indoctrinated. But that's all right. I understand your dilemma, but you're already doing something about it. Your DNA is already rearranging itself inside of you, because I think you have the possibility of making it. I think that you can beat all this mess that the whole world is in. Now, imagine a dream where it seems as if you're descending into a huge mine. And I've seen one somewhere on the internet where something like this exists. It's a humongous hole in the earth, but you can see around the edges that great big huge trucks. That's why I say a mine, because great big huge trucks can go all the way around the edge from the top to the bottom. It's like stairs, only they're going around and around, and great big huge trucks coming and going, excavating something or doing some kind of work from beneath that's unseen. And as you're flying in to the hole, you'll notice that it's so big that if you can imagine being on like an airplane or something, you feel it descending down into this as it goes in the circle of the shape of the big hole in the ground. And you're on your way to work, to do whatever it is you do for who knows how long, night after night after night after night. Are you being farmed out? No. Don't think like that about this. Think like that as being a part of something bigger going on. And it's going on beneath the surface. Because everything that we focus on in our perception should come from above. Therefore, we never look what's down below. Remember, the Muppets came to this dilemma. And every time they looked down, they saw people that were holding them up and making them talk. And they come to a conclusion at the end of the show that we're not going to look down anymore. So they stopped looking down and never, ever again were bothered by this little puzzle in their brains of what was going on here, because we look down and we see everything, everybody's manipulating us. We're not real. We're being manipulated here. And so the Muppets had determined at the end of the show, we're not going to look down anymore. Okay, we've been looking up for everything, haven't we? Now, what have we not been looking up for? We're always have our sky, our face to the sky, our eye in the sky, watching for something coming in the sky, always looking for something to come down upon them, a blessing to come down upon you. How low do you want to go? Way on down, way on down. I'll leave that to J.D. Sumner. Bless his heart. Are you daydreaming right now? Did I lose you there for a minute? What were you thinking? Night after night, and you never really know what it is. You're descending into somewhere to do something that has everything to do with what's going on around you in your awake realm. And when you're in that realm where you are descending down into the perhaps the bowels of the earth itself, where looking for diamonds, but basically something's going on down there that you're a part of, and it also indicates it's a part of something that you're doing here in the awake world. There's a parallel there somewhere. Whatever it is you do in your life right now, however you see yourself, however you carry yourself, however you want others to perceive you, has everything to do with what's going on when you're asleep. This is in the under the categories of recurring dreams, because if you just find yourself, what are we doing? And how about when you're thinking about, you're about to go to sleep, and you're thinking about, wow, I wonder what it is we're doing down there. Are they calling you? Are they all ready to get started and you're not there yet and they're waiting for you? Are they calling you into the dream realm? Can they do that? Can we do that? There's a lot of things we can do. Remember what I said about the lucid dreaming? When you're in a dream and you all of a sudden realize this is a dream, that becomes lucid at that point, where all of a sudden you know it's a dream. So then if you know it's a dream, then try something you know you can't do when you're awake. Fly. Fly. You ever imagine yourself being able to just take like a jump? And the sensation of it would be the same as if you had jumped into a pool and you're pushing yourself up off the bottom of the pool and ascending to the top where the air is, right? But in the dream, you push with your feet on the ground and you go up and you clear the power lines on the telephone poles and you gently come right back down on your feet. We're talking about in a dream. We're talking about in a dream. Because you can only do this in a dream. But what about stories of witches flying around on their brooms? Do you think they really finish up cleaning up the house and sweeping everything up and then sundown, full moon, why not? Let's go flying around. You think they just, let's go, girls, and get up and go? And they're not just girls, you know. That is another episode somewhere else, yet worthy of being on the edge with the Clif. Welcome aboard once again. Our weekly get-together is talking about dreams, and we've gotten kind of deep into a few ideas and thoughts about dreams. And if you're here while we are live, feel free to use the chat room and say anything you want to about the dreams. The chat room is open. Yep, it's right there, next there with us. In fact, I typed hello into it, so you can type hello too. Unless you don't want me to say hi and then mention it. If you don't want me to mention your name, shh. You know how to spell shh? Okay. You go shh, and I'll look and I'll say, oh, okay. But mind you, other people who can see the chat room will see you too, not just me. But then again, if you have a question, feel free to just type it in there, because I'm sitting right here. I might have to put them goofy glasses on again. But we talked about some recurring dreams, and then dreams that you wish were recurring because they sure was good. Have you ever dreamed of winning a lottery? Now, if you dreamed that you won the lottery, would that inspire you to go buy a ticket? Because people who've never bought a lottery ticket before never win the lottery. It's always somebody who buys a ticket. Always remember that. That's how you can tell that somebody's trying to defraud you when you get an email from Nigeria saying, hey, ain't you Desmond? There's a Desmond in Ireland that passed away recently, and he's got millions and millions of dollars, and we think that you might be one of his only survivors. And so this was way back before all this stuff got popular. I wrote back and I said, I'm sorry, I'm quite sure I'm not the Desmond in Ireland that passed away, related to them in any way, shape, or form. I've got knowledge of my ancestors in Ireland, and doesn't sound like any of them. And the guy writes back and he goes, that doesn't matter. We can still get you the money, I think. And all you need to do is send us an $8,000 transfer fee, and we got all these millions right into your bank account in a flash of light. Well, I hope you never fall for that. That's a scam. That's a big scam. That one of the earliest scams there were. And they all come out of Nigeria. Ever since then, I've probably won the Nigerian lottery maybe 20 times. Always get an email about it. And I always think, if this was real, if this was a real lottery, how would they get my email address? You don't register your email address when you buy a lottery ticket. You got to take all the bunk out of everything. You have to bust off all the crust, you know, the charred stuff on the outside, scrape it away. Ew. What do you do in your dreams that you can't do when you're awake? People who can't swim dream about swimming. People who never ridden a bicycle dream about riding a bicycle. People who've never been in a hot air balloon might dream about riding a hot air balloon. The sky is always a wonderful place. And you know what I noticed? Both in dreams and in reality, what I refer to as the awake world, the real world that we're in. The real world that we talk about when you're outside after church. Oh, church is over. Back to the real world now. You know, a stinker. I probably dreamed it all up. But how young were you when you really, in your mind, understood what a dream was and you had a dream? How old were you when you recall your first dreams? Do you recall any dreams that occurred perhaps when you were a toddler, 2, 3, 4 years old. Do you ever go back that far once in a while? I've gotten all the way back to age 2. I can't seem to get back before 2 because I figure I just got a little while more to go before I can remember where I was before I was here. As far as memory goes. So, what was the most terrifying dream you ever had as a child? Do you remember any childhood nightmares? Because nightmares are also ways to reboot and cope with other things that are going on. You don't want a nightmare to be a premonition of something because it's a nightmare. And we tend to find our own nightmares in life that work their way into our awakened reality. Different diseases, ailments, and treatments that make you need more treatment. But while we're here and awake, and you can remember some of this before you go back to sleep, always remember that once you realize you're in a dream, then you can take full control of it. Because there are no boundaries. I call it dreamland. What do you think of dreamland? Dreamland's a great place. Are you hearing some little audio chimes? I'm getting pop-ups while I'm streaming on YouTube. How could they do that? They're not selling ads to pop up while you're streaming. No. The ads will pop up when you're going from video to video and you're searching for something and you're watching stuff. I know. There's a dream that you've been having quite some time and it bothers you. Don't let it bother you. Remember, it's just a dream. And if it is really bothering you, maybe you should just pay attention to what's going on in the dream. If it's a dream that bothers you, don't allow yourself to recognize it and turn it into a lucid dream. But then, of course, if you're having a bad dream or nightmare, you can change it. You can kill the monster. You can zap him with rays out of your fingertips. Anything that you can imagine, you can do in that state. Where do you think the great animators have gotten ideas for the stuff that we watch in movies and in kids' cartoons? They don't make children's cartoons anymore. No, they make this high tech stuff now. Wow. And you ever notice how the character in the movie, this animation like Shrek, for example, how much he actually looks like the guy that plays his part, Mike. You know Mike from Wayne's World, yeah, and his British accent in Shrek, and the looks and the expressions. The animators capture those expressions while the actor is doing the sound voices for them, the voice tracks. When they're laying out the voice tracks, they'll take whoever is doing the voice and they'll animate the face of the cartoon character who the voice is being created for, and they give them the same expressions as the guy that's doing the voice right now. Yeah. So if you could imagine, that's how they would do a cartoon character of me. It would look something like that. Are you in any danger? What do they say? What do they say about dreams? If you're falling in a dream and you hit the bottom, like the coyote does when he's chasing the roadrunner, and he goes right over the cliff, and then before he falls, he realizes that he's not on the cliff anymore, and he looks, there's nothing underneath him, and then he falls. Splat. Now, if you get to that point in a dream, some say that you'll die of a heart attack in your sleep. Not necessarily. No. I'm still here. I'm still here. And, well, I'm in Florida, so this is a ridiculous type of a dream for somebody in Florida. But I once had a dream here in Florida that I went over the edge of a bridge and the car hit ice, frozen water. They have them up north. And I heard the big crack of the ice and the car started to sink down. Well, it was in a fall. The car went off of the bridge and it hit the ice on the water. But it hit. I didn't die of a heart attack right then. In fact, I didn't even drown. I just woke up all freaked out thinking, whoa, that was a dream. Weird one to have in Florida. But in reference to the falling and landing from the fall, killing you in your sleep is highly unlikely. No. You probably got a better chance of somebody actually killing you than for that to happen. And then those dreams that will sometimes set us way back because they make us think that might be a warning or a premonition, and I better do things differently because it looks like this, that, and the other is not going to work out, and this is going to happen. It's going to be awful because I saw it in a dream. And no, don't let a dream lead you in fear, because fear is not something that comes out of your consciousness. Fear wants to access and control your consciousness. Fear is not a thing, of course, is it? Then why are you so afraid? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's all right. Nothing is going to get you. There is no monster under the bed. Unless there's really a monster under the bed, like maybe a wild animal crawling into the house in the middle of the night. An empty chat room? That's all right. The comments can add up under the archives, and this archive of this show will be dreams. Because down the road, I wouldn't mind finding a few of you who might be interested in conducting some dream experiments. Remember what I said about lucid dreaming? I've also said all along, since day number one, the first time I ever sat in front of one of these cameras and did one of these types of shows, I've always said that I believe that we're all connected. We're connected directly with our family through DNA. It wouldn't be my DNA or your DNA, but they could find out if somebody's your grandfather or your great uncle or your cousin or your brother or your sister, because that's our genetic makeup. Our genetic fingerprint is our DNA. And that's a connection that goes through generations and generations and all the way back to the early humans, where we all originated from, the early indigenous people of the earth. Some of them got pretty darn good at it. Oh, by the way, if you hit subscribe, then you'll be notified every time I go live, I think. I think that's how it works. If you subscribe, hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the like button. If you're afraid to let your name get in the chat room and you watch the archives, then there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Now, I would hope that you'd hit the thumbs up button. Some of you folks who are with me will, and then there are maybe a few folks that will express the thumbs down. That's okay. You know why? Because a boxer, when he's got his dukes up, his thumbs are all folded up. They're not in use. They're neither up nor down. But I hear a little bit of a thunderstorm brewing outside of this undisclosed location where folks come for unindoctrination. This is the edge with the cliff. Not so sunny in South Florida right now. It is out the window. The storm's not here yet, but I can hear it. And we're still undetermined on moving the show to 6 p.m. because that seems to be a really comfortable time for a lot of people. Like it was 2 hours originally. Could you handle listening to me for 2 hours? Well, don't forget, I've got some of the same resources that others have, so I'll be able to have guests on the show. I could have guests in the studio on this one because we have a lot of very powerful people in my immediate vicinity from which I could draw some nice energy for this show by bringing them on and letting them talk about what they do. This is The Edge with the Cliff on YouTube, 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, Sunday afternoons, for now. But if you want to follow on Facebook, look for not The Edge, but look for Edge with the Cliff. Edge with the Cliff group on Facebook. Edge with the Cliff, not The Edge, just Edge with the Cliff on Facebook. Now, I can go live with the camera there too, but it saves there on Facebook. It doesn't go on YouTube. So I do the show on YouTube, then I can share it on Facebook afterwards. And I don't want you to miss a single episode because we're going to get into some stuff. And we got a whole lot more to work on with dreams. But I'm at the point right now to where your input would be very, very helpful. What I'd like to know is if anything resonated what I said about dreams that seem to recur and there seems to be a mission involved or something that's still undiscovered by you or unknown to you, what it is you're actually doing, but you know that it has everything to do with what's going on in your awakened realm. Sir Isaac Newton said, for every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Such is in the spirit realm, and so is it in dreamland. What about dream travel? Would you like to explore dream travel someday? What if going anywhere in the universe was just a dream away? Dream travel, what a concept. Think about that. And then you've always got somebody out there that's going to say, that's absolutely nuts and crazy. Can't talk about dreams. It's that dreams ain't real. Well, dreams are real because they're in your head. What they mean might not necessarily represent reality. But just to write them off and blow them off like that is like a fool who thinks he's going to be a big bad wolf and blow the brick house down. Yeah. As the wolf lie gagging his last breath on the doorsteps of the brick house he tried to blow down, people shake their heads and say, pity, he had such faith. Such faith. Well, we see the big bad wolf's rewards for faith. Reward yourself anyway. Don't require your adventures in faith. Don't allow them to be the description of you. Because adventures in faith is just 50-50. You could base your faith on anything and it all has the same odds. George Carlin said, and he was a professional comedian. I'm just good at making the noise that the rubber duck makes when you squeeze him, because I like to make sounds like a rubber duck. I can't do it now. Got to have one of them little things that you pull out of the rubber duck. Yeah. Okay. But you know how it is. Here on the edge with the cliff, we're asking questions and questioning answers. We're going where no professed Christian dare even set their foot, out of fear and fear alone. They say, oh, but it's out of respect. Yeah, the kind of respect like for your boss, where you kiss ass all day. Good kiss ass respect. Out of good kiss ass respect for who? The Lord. You see, you're the one treading on thin ice. You go ahead and trust in the God that calls himself the Lord. And remember, the knowledge of good and evil, they're both the same thing. The edge with the cliff. Until next time, thanks for coming by. Subscribe, like the page, hit me up on Facebook.